shining down on the valley. Hope to be a fly fish till the day that I die. Spring has thawed out the long bitter winter. The water is clear and the skies are blue. I'm standing in the middle of the Beaver Kill River. Might even catch and release one or two. Well, some folks like horses, cats or a dog. Me, I like fishing with a rod and a fly. Yes, fishing is a favorite pastime of mine. If I couldn't do it, I think I would cry. Well, life is good when I'm wading a river. It gets even better when I cast a fly. If I catch a trout, it don't really matter. It's fun just to be here and give it a try. Trout is rising in the far eddy. I make a false cast, then take my aim. If he takes the fly, I feel so much better. And if he doesn't, I'll feel no shame. Stoneflies and caddis and the riffles are plenty. Mayflies courting on fragrant breeze. And cedar wax wings come down from the heaven, wait for their dinner up in the pine trees. The water is cold and my waders leak, and it's raining now on my favorite stream. I'll bear it all, just fish with a feather, so when I sleep I will have a sweet dream. And life is good when I'm wading a river. It gets even better when I cast a fly. If I catch a trout, it don't really matter. It's fun just to be here and give it a try. Oh, ripples and waves, pools and eddies, trout are rising for the mayfly. And the sun is shining down on the valley. Hope to be a fly fish until the day that I die. Yes, I hope to be a fly fish until the day that I die. Oh, hey folks, how you doing today? Curtis Mayfly here, and you're watching Riffles and Waves, the only fly fishing show for kids of all ages. I was just practicing some knots here. It's always good to do that. Get a piece of rope out. One of these days we'll cover knots again probably, as we do every year. And today we're going to be talking about fly fishing. But first I want to do a little recap about last week's show. And I just hope you enjoyed last week's show. It was about stream channelization, and I'm almost positive I will show that again because it's such an important concept when you're talking about hydrology and watershed management. In fact, if you go to the EPA.gov's website, there's a free course in water hydrology on there. It takes a while to find it, but you got to go into water resources and wetlands, and then it pops up. It's all about watershed management, and they have these little lessons you can go through online and take all these things, and they take a test at the end, and it's a self-test, so there's no grade or anything, and it doesn't cost anything, but it's a good thing to know. If you want to know about watershed management and hydrology and all these things that deal with the floods and all these problems we've seen in June 2006 and then the flash flooding, most recent, and you'll know one fact is clear: erosion happens. It's a natural part of a stream process, okay? So if you live near a stream, it's going to erode, it's going to take your backyard, it's going to take your house possibly. This is just a fact, Jack, okay? And I know a lot of my friends live near the water, but you have to understand that if you live near water, that's a fact, Jack. A stream has been there for 10,000 years. You build a house there, and you act like folks act like the stream is, oh, it's taking my yard, it's this evil terrorist type thing, you know. It's like, no, it's not. It's a river. It's doing what it naturally does. You put your house in harm's way, that's what happens. And so just bear in mind, I got a lot of friends who live near rivers and have had problems with flooding, and it's just goes with the territory, okay? And some of us have, I mean, if you build a house on a beach, you know, a storm's going to come in and a hurricane's going to come in sometime. It's not a question of if, it's when. We know it will happen. And the same thing here with the flooding. We know it's going to flood again. We know there's going to be erosion. But by learning about wildland hydrology and river hydrology, we can design structures that actually use the power of the water to work positively for us and cause less damage. I mean, the power of the water is there. We just need to harness it to make the river do what we want it to do. And it's kind of simple. You use the power of the water to do what it's going to do, to go where it's going to go by designing structures on streams and rivers. And it just makes sense. If we're going to spend money on doing stuff, we need to do that. Enough with that. I'm going to start today's show, and we're going to talk about fly tying. And again, I will cover stream hydrology more. But again, that's another show. Today we're doing fly tying, okay? And so today I'm going to talk about tools, and maybe we'll get into some materials. My clock stopped, so I have no idea how long I'm going for. But anyway, we'll see what happens here. And again, if you don't have any equipment, if you don't have all this junk that I have back here, I shouldn't call it junk, but it's got tons and tons of stuff. And one of the things is about fly tying is that it's a joke. It's kind of a joke after you get into fly tying. Most people say, I started tying flies to save money. Well, that just isn't the case usually. What happens is you spend money on feathers and hooks and this and that, and all this stuff costs money. 100 hooks here, 11 bucks. You know, a light, this and that, and tools and kits and everything else. But if you're getting started, just bear in mind that it's a lifelong hobby, and you technically do save some money when you go out fly fishing and fishing in general, because you're spending $2. If you go to a shop, you're going to pay like $2 a fly for a hand-tied fly. So it really behooves you to pick up a kit and learn how to fly tie. This is, I just got this kit for Christmas. It's a Gander Mountain fly tying kit, and it's nothing fancy, nothing special. But the price was right. And that doesn't belong in there. It comes with a nice vise, and a vise is always a good thing to have. A fairly good one. This one is probably a $15 vise, and it will hold the fly in the jaws. It's got a cam action jaw. There's many different types of vices, and I won't go over all of them, but and they vary according to your budget. And always remember to buy within your budget, because if you spend too much on a vise and you don't have gas money to go fishing, it defeats the purpose. You want to be able to stay within your budget and within your means. And this kit has a fairly good vise. And we'll throw it over here. It comes with a nice booklet, okay, which allows you to tie all the flies that are on the back of the booklet. And it has the basic tools. You have a nice pair of small scissors, a bobbin, a fluted bobbin. I'll talk a little bit about that. It has a dubbing needle and hackle pliers in here somewhere. Hackle pliers allow you to hold the hackle while you spin it around the hook. I know they're in there. There they are. Little hackle pliers. And some head cement, tinsel, and all the other things you need. Hooks. everything comes in this kit basically to tie 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different flies. Now from this kit you can start with this kit and tie these flies, and you can basically you'll learn some of the skills needed to tie almost any fly. So once you buy a kit like this and you go through these flies, you're going to learn dubbing, tails, and some other things. This kit does not do dry flies, okay? So you're going to need to buy a neck or a cape and go on from there. So we'll put that down here. But there's lots of different kits out there. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit because I want tools. A vise is very important. This is a medium priced one. This has a pedestal and a nice cam operation that locks. This is a Dynaking vise, about 130 bucks. Nice stainless steel jaws and everything. Very nice vise. This is my favorite vise. I have other vices, cams and rotating and everything else. This is the one I use most of the time. It's small, it holds the hook, and that's all I'm concerned with. So let's talk about some of the other tools that I use. Before I get started on fly tying, I like to clean off my fingers a little bit. Take a little bit of the edge off so that your fingers don't catch on the thread. And these little nail files work very well for that. Now that my fingers are nice and smooth and won't catch the thread, okay, I'm going to talk about some other tools here. So let's move this out of the way. Okay, now one of the important tools in fly tying is a good pair of scissors. These are very small, very sharp scissors. And a lot of times you can just hold them in your hand like that, and then they're always at the ready. And you can work with your fingers and hold the scissors there, and there we go. So what you're looking for is big finger loops with very sharp points. That's what you're looking for. And they vary in price. Always stay within your budget. Another important tool is a bobbin. This holds the thread and gives it tension. So you pull these springs out and set the tension on the bobbin of thread, and that will set your tension while you're wrapping. And these are fluted. That means they have a little trumpet-like fixture on the end, which keeps it from breaking the thread. If you just get straight edges, there's also ceramic bobbins, which are very nice working with thread, fine threads, and it won't break. Another tool for dubbing is a spinner. This hooks onto the thread, and I may show you how to use that. You spin that, and then you use that for dubbing your flies. Another important little tool, very simple, is a dubbing needle. This is a very sharp needle, fairly long, about 2.5 inches long, and it's rectangle so that when you set it down it doesn't roll off the floor. And also in the end there's a hole, and you can use that to tie knots, half hitches around the hook. And you put this over the eye and slide that hook down. Very nice feature for a dubbing needle. Another tool that I use on my elk hair caddis is a hair stacker. You can buy these or you can make your own. This one's a bought one. It's made out of aluminum. You put your hair fibers in the end, tap it, put your finger on top and tap it. And then you carefully slide this out, and it will line the tips of the feathers all up nice and neat. I use that on the elk hair caddis. Another tool you may find handy is a hair packer. If you tie deer hair bass bugs, this is an important tool because when you're tying the hair onto the bug, you put these holes through there and push it down, and it packs the hair nice and tight. The tighter you pack it, the better it is. Another tool that beginners like to use is a hackle gauge. You wrap your hackle around here and it tells you how long the hackle is. Also has the hook sizes. This can go right on your base of your vise. Very handy little tool. Not necessary, but handy. And then you also have your whip finish knot tire, and I'll get into showing you how to use that down the road, not right away. And another tool that I don't see here is hackle pliers. Here you go. These are spring steel hackle pliers. These are my favorite right here. I'm lost without this pair. They hold very well, and very easy to use. Very simple design, but they come in a variety of styles and designs. And again, they're based on your budget. But this one I found to be very, very good. It's just very simple spring steel. Very good. And of course, you're going to need hooks. You're going to need hooks in a variety of sizes. These are number 10 barbless dry fly hooks. I buy them by the hundreds. Here's size 14 Mustad 94845 barbless dry fly hooks. But you also tie nymph hooks and everything else. So you can see how the cost of all the stuff could add up. And that's why when you get started, it's nice to get a kit just to get you started. Then you buy a few hooks. You don't have to buy packets of 100. They come in 25s and 50s. You also have head cement. I've gotten to where I like to use what's called Zap-A-Gap. This stuff is really good. Your fly will not come apart, and it has a little tip here so you can direct it right where you want. And sometimes I'll put a little pile on my piece of wood, and I'll just use my dubbing needle to touch into that and put that on the fly, just a small amount. It doesn't take much, but that works very well. Another item is wax. Here's two different kinds. This is just wax for waxing your thread, and it's not necessary. It does help when you're tying dubbing, and a lot of people don't even use it anymore because the thread is waxed. So it's up to you if you need it. If you think it helps, it helps. Now let's get our vise back over here. And next week I'll talk a little bit more about material. Okay? And for right now we're just going to tie a fly. We're going to be using some soft hackle. Some saddle hackle, I mean. Sorry. It's all soft. But this is saddle hackle, black. We're going to be using some black marabou. And we're going to be using some black chenille, okay, and we're going to be tying a black woolly bugger. So I've placed my thread on there, did the jam knot, I'm wrapped all the way back to the bend. Okay, I'll also go over the hook things at a later time. But for right now, we're going to start with our black woolly bugger, and what I'm going to do, take out some of the black marabou and just pull out a little bit. This is for the tail. Okay, got a little clump right there, and I want that to be about the length of the shank. So I'm going to take that and then I'm going to cut that. If I can find my scissors. I'm going to cut this. Okay, there's my tail. I'm going to pinch it, and we're going to do what's called the pinch method. I'm going to pinch it on there and wrap through it soft a couple of times, and always pull up. And once you get it on there, you can wrap it nice and tight. Watch out for the hook. The hook is very sharp, and it can cut that very easily. Okay? Now, I'm going to put a saddle hackle on. I'll get this out of the package, because we're going to wrap this one. Get a nice long one. There we go. Then we're going to clip it off right about there. And actually, I like to tie this in with the tip. Okay? Because we're going to wrap it forward in what's called palmering. Palmering is where you wrap material forward, leaving a space, and you'll see what happens. Now I'm going to put my black chenille. I'll pull it out of here, and just a small piece. This is going to make the body, and some people make a loop with this. I don't think it's necessary to make a loop unless you want to. And again, if you were to add weight, you would have weight on here. And we're going to bring this forward to the head. Okay? I'm going to wrap this chenille, each wrap right in front of the other wrap. Ouch. The hook is sharp, by the way. We're going to cut that off. Pretty easy fly. Now we're going to take our hackle and palmer it through there, leaving a space. Those fibers stand right up. Now you can tie this fly also with a cone head or a bead on the front, and you can also add weight to this fly. You can also make the body double that size. Whatever you want to do. It's your fly. You're going to fish it, and you're gonna see how it works for you. Now to do a whip finish, I'm going to go around. Oops. Running out of room here. Basically go around once. Oops. Basically. To do my whip finish, sorry, I usually tie around and go twice up over. It's basically a whip finish in reverse, and that's all you need to do. And then there's your basic black woolly bugger. And there you have it. We tied a black woolly bugger today, and we talked about some of the tools. If you'd like to get into fly tying, or if you're already doing it, keep in touch. Go to my website, then look up my email address, and send me your questions and responses to the show. And if you'd like to get on the show and tie flies, I'd love to have you come on up to my ranch here, and we would tie some flies together, and you could tell me your favorite fly. And by the way, I'm also working on a book called Flies of the West Branch of the Delaware, a collection of flies from people who fish it. So, if you want to get published, and it could be your own design fly, it could be somebody else's, it could be a black woolly bugger, I don't really care. Send me your fly, send me the instructions on how you tie it, and I will take a picture of it and put it in the book, and it's going to take a couple of years. We're going to collect flies for this. So you can buy a kit and get started tying and work on it, and then get me a fly down the road. But I would love to have all my viewers out there send me in flies from the West Branch, and I'll get it in the book. So on the show here, you always see my name with my website and my email address. Feel free to contact me anytime with that. And as always, I guess we're running out of time. As usual, I talk too much and talk too long, and it's time to say goodbye for now. And get a little fly tying kit and tie up some black woolly buggers. And the next, well, look up the Trout Unlimited meetings for the Ale Hazard chapter. We've got Charlie Collins coming in a couple of months, February I think, and he has hackle for sale. So it's a good time to get some of the best hackle in the country at a reduced rate. So come on down to the meeting. We always have snacks to share, free raffle, and a guest speaker. So come down to the Vestal Library and see us down there when we're there. I guess that's it. I'm running out of time. I talked about stream channelization a little bit, and I talked about getting in the book, and we talked about tools, and we tied a black woolly bugger. Next week we're going to get into some other flies, possibly nymphs, and like the hare's ear nymph and stuff like that. So hey, keep in touch and get tying flies. It's a fun hobby. See you next week. Do-ba-ba-da-boom. You gotta see this.
Kurt Nelson.
What?
I came home and told you that very thing, but you didn't say me. No, never mind.
I did too.
Did not.
I did too.
Your car review went back to playing that stupid game.